There's a line people quote so often it's lost its teeth. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
I've heard it. And honestly, part of me hears that and goes, okay, but they earned it. Why should I be the one to let it go?
That's the honest reaction. And that's exactly what we're sitting in today. Because here's the uncomfortable part. The poison is real, but it's only in your cup. The person who hurt you isn't feeling any of it.
So the grudge I think I'm holding against them
Is mostly just sitting on your own chest. Like concrete poured over a garden. And nothing new grows through concrete.
Okay, walk me through that. What is bitterness actually doing? Because in the moment, it doesn't feel like poison. It feels like being right.
It does. That's what makes it so sticky. The Bible has this phrase in Hebrews, a root of bitterness that grows up and defiles many. And the word picture is exact. A root, something underground, something you can't see that's quietly feeding on everything above it.
So it's not the loud anger. It's the quiet stuff.
The quiet stuff. Loud anger burns out. Bitterness digs in. It's the replayed argument at 2 a.m. It's the name you can't hear without your stomach tightening. It's the way a betrayal from years ago still sets the temperature of your whole day.
And you're saying that's costing me something, even when I'm not thinking about it.
Constantly. It's like leaving an app running in the background of your mind. It drains the battery whether or not you've got it open. People carrying old betrayals are tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. The resentment is using up energy that was meant for your actual life.
That's a little too accurate.
And notice what it does to the ground. A heart was meant to be a garden, something alive, something that produces. Bitterness turns it into a graveyard, hardened earth, old grudges lying around like headstones. And you start to believe that's just who you are now.
So the thing I've been calling just being realistic, or not being naive again,
might be the concrete. We should look at that next, because it wears a really convincing disguise.
the disguise being what?
Protection. The story bitterness tells you is, this wall is keeping you safe. If I stay angry, if I keep the debt open, I can't get hurt like that again.
Right, like the anger is armor.
But here's the problem with a wall that thick. It doesn't just keep the pain out, it keeps everything out. The same hardness that blocks the next betrayal also blocks the people who'd actually love you now. Nutrients can't get through concrete either.
So the wall works. It just works too well.
It works on the wrong things. And there's a second illusion underneath it, which is the big one. The belief that keeping the dead alive is a form of justice. That if I forgive, they get away with it.
Yeah, that's the one I actually feel. Forgiving feels like letting them win.
And this is where the parable Jesus told cuts right in. Because he tells a story specifically for the person who feels that. Peter comes to Jesus and basically asks, how many times do I have to forgive someone? 7? He thinks he's being generous.
7 does sound generous, honestly.
Jesus says, not 7. 70 times 7. Which isn't a number to count to, it's his way of saying, stop counting. And then he tells a story to explain why. There's a servant who owes the king an impossible amount. Think a debt you could never repay in 100 lifetimes.
How much are we talking?
The number Jesus uses is almost comically huge on purpose. The equivalent of thousands of years of wages. It's not a debt you pay down. It's a debt that owns you. And the servant begs for time, and the king does something stunning. He doesn't give him a payment plan. He cancels it. The whole thing. Gone.
Just erased.
Erased. The man walks out free. And then, the same man finds someone who owes him a small amount, a few days' wages, something payable. And he grabs him by the throat and demands it. Won't wait. Has the guy thrown in prison over it.
Oh, that's infuriating. He just got forgiven a fortune.
That's the reaction Jesus wants. You're supposed to be angry at him. And then the turn. The point isn't really about the small debt. It's that the servant walked out of that throne room still feeling like a man who was owed. He got forgiven an ocean and kept score over a cup.
So, the parable's not saying the small debt doesn't matter. It's saying, look at what you're clutching, compared to what you've been released from.
That's it exactly. Forgiveness, in this story, isn't pretending the debt is small. The debts are real. It's refusing to run your life as a man who is owed.
Okay, But I want to push, because this is where it gets hard for real people. Some things that get done to people are not a cup, they're an ocean too. Are you telling someone to just wave that away?
No, and this is the most important distinction in the whole conversation. Radical forgiveness is not saying it didn't matter. It's not saying it was okay. And it is not the same thing as reconciliation.
Say more about that, because I think people hear forgive and think, go back.
They're two different things. Forgiveness is something that happens inside you. You release the debt. You stop being the collector. Reconciliation takes two people, and it requires the other person to be safe and to have changed. You can fully forgive someone you never speak to again. You can forgive someone and still keep a locked door between you.
So, forgiveness doesn't mean reopening yourself to harm.
Never. Forgiving the person who hurt you is not an invitation for them to do it again. It's you putting down a debt they were never going to pay anyway. Think about that part. Most of the time, you're waiting for an apology that is never coming. You're standing at a door, arms full, waiting for a knock that won't happen.
And meanwhile, the concrete's still setting.
While the ground hardens. So the trade is this. You stop waiting for them to make it right, and you choose to set the weight down anyway, not for their sake, for the soil, as a survival move for your own growth.
So practically, because just let it go is not a technique, what does setting it down actually look like? It can't be one dramatic moment.
It's almost never one moment. That's the myth that keeps people stuck. They think forgiveness is a single heroic act, and when the anger comes back next week, they figure it didn't work.
Right, and then they feel like a failure on top of everything.
When actually it's more like tending ground than flipping a switch. You clear the debris a bit at a time. Naming the specific thing honestly, not minimizing it, is turning the soil. Choosing, on a given day, not to rehearse the offense one more time is pulling a weed. Praying for the person, even through gritted teeth, even when you don't feel it, that's watering ground that still looks dead.
And you're saying you do that before you feel anything different.
Long before. The feelings are the last thing to arrive, not the first. You keep the ground soft on purpose, and one day you notice you thought about them, and your stomach didn't drop. That's the first green shoot. That's bitterness starting to evaporate.
So the goal isn't to feel warm toward them, it's that they stop having a lease on your inner life.
That's the whole harvest, really. And that's where a guy like Joseph comes in, sold into slavery by his own brothers. And years later, he's the one holding all the power over them, every right to collect the debt. And what he says is, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good.
He's not pretending it didn't happen. He names it as evil.
He names it plainly. He just refuses to let it have the final say over his life. And that's the ground finally producing something. The creativity, the peace, the room to breathe that were being strangled. They come back. Not because the past changed. Because you stopped pouring your days into a debt that was never going to be repaid.
The garden, instead of the graveyard.
The garden instead of the graveyard. So if you're carrying a jagged old root right now, you don't have to feel warmly toward anyone today. That's not the assignment. The assignment is just to ask whether the debt you're holding is worth what it's costing your soil.
Here's my question for you watching. What's the one root you'd have to release for something new to grow? And what do you think would come up in its place? Tell us in the comments. We read them.
And if this is the kind of thing you want to keep working through with us, this is what we do here. We'll see you in the next one.